Yo, what up everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a hump day edition of Morning Scone presented by Boudreaux's Bloody Mary Mix Margarita Mix. We appreciate Boudreaux's for sponsoring the show and appreciate you for watching every day. You probably know we created a monster yesterday with Drew doing the yell of my high school that everyone knows. He is in this room as we speak looking at the other side of the camera. And is probably going to come over here and make me do that 10 million times because we did that yell, which I'm not going to do until he makes me 10 million times yesterday. It's a miracle that I'm not completely hoarse. Anyway, good morning to everybody. Let's start doing some hellos. A couple things we're talking about. Val, good morning. Danny, Stephen Bro, Kyle Larison, Bert Harriman, what's up, man? Chad Gidry, good morning. Scott Bork, good morning. Good to see all y'all. A couple things I want to talk about today. Alvino, good morning. Alvino. Why do I always screw it up, man? I think it's Alvino, I'm pretty sure, right? I need to just write it down, make sure I never forget. By the way, he wants me to do it right now. Blake McGraw, Petey Kern, good morning, y'all. Calici! Okay, it's the only time I'm doing it. He's going to make me do it a million times. See? He started again already. So, a couple things we'll do that I have, and we'll get to your questions, comments, stuff. So, Urban Meyer yesterday at Big Ten Media Days, I talked about Joe Burrow. First time that he's mentioned Joe Burrow since Burrow transferred to LSU. We talked about it yesterday on AFR, but for those that missed it, we'll talk. So when you hear add that, that's him wanting me to say Calici, and he loves it. And then report from Josh Katzenstein at NOLA.com that Brandon Coleman is going to start Saints camp on the physically unable to perform list. I'll tell you why that's significant. Saints start camp tomorrow. First practice open to the public isn't until Saturday. No, baby, don't touch that. Don't touch. No. Don't touch that. Uh-oh. I know. Drew's touching the screen. Truck. Calici. I just don't want to turn. Okay. All right, so let's start with Joe Burrow. If you're Calici! I don't know. I want you to go run and watch Mickey, all right? And let Daddy's voice have a rest. Charlie, Robin, Bruce, Chris, good morning, y'all. Glad to see everybody this morning. So let me start with the Joe Burrow stuff. If you got questions or comments, fire away. So I found this really interesting. Yesterday, Big Ten Media Days, Meyer, of course, was asked about Joe Burrow. And it's the first time he talked about Burrow since he transferred to LSU. He said, Joe Burrow, quote, the last 2 weeks of spring practice did about everything he could do to win the starting job. I really haven't talked much about this, but it was right there. He went on to say, do I wish he was still with us? I do. I love Joe Burrow. He also said, quote, he's ready to go play. He's earned that right. That's why I think LSU fans should be very excited. So Meyer gushed about Joe Burrow yesterday. That's fantastic news. I'll tell you why I appreciate that. Sometimes it's like you consider the source, right? Like when last year when Brandon Harris transferred to North Carolina, there was some question like, okay, you knew Harris had a skill set, like he could move a little bit, and he had a big arm, and maybe it was just that it was like the round peg, square hole type thing, and it just didn't fit. So it was interesting to think, like, okay, well, when he goes to Larry Fedora's offense, could that work? Maybe just a better fit? Does that work better? And we all saw that he ended up being the number 3 quarterback on that team, and it as it turned out, he just lacked certain things that you need to be a successful college quarterback. So you look at Burrow, though, and I go, man, I got to consider the source, because there's Urban Meyer, who his backups at times have been sensational. I mean, let's not forget, like Braxton Miller was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year and ended up not starting at quarterback that final season because J.T. Barrett had exploded. And then you also had, of course, Cardell Jones, who was the number 3 quarterback who ended up winning the national championship game, the playoff game, and the Big Ten championship game in 2014. So you look at Meyer, he's always recruited great quarterbacks, and he's developed them. Even you can go back to Florida, of course, when you talk about inheriting Chris Leak and then recruiting Tim Tebow, and I mean he recruited Cam Newton as well. Of course, Cam got booted. You wonder like how Florida's fortune might be different had Cam never stolen that laptop. and got kicked off the team. But you can go back to Utah and Alex Smith. I mean, there's just even at Bowling Green, his time at Bowling Green, the kid, Omar Jacobs at Bowling Green. I mean, he's always had really talented, skilled quarterbacks, which LSU's lacked. So you have a guy that Meyer sort of handpicked in Burrow, and he says, "Man, I love Joe Burrow." And he talks about his deceptive athleticism and speed, and it's exciting because I think, I think you look at Burrow, and this is like going to be maybe the most obvious statement I'll make on this. When you look at LSU, and you know how I feel about this team, I picked them 7-5. But if you all are going to be laughing at me in November, it's because Joe Burrow comes in and has the impact on the team that, similar to like what Cam Newton did. And I'm not trying to say that Joe Burrow is Cam Newton and LSU is going to go undefeated. But my point is, like, when he went to Auburn, he completely changed the fortunes of that program and that team. And they won a national title. I don't think this team is good. This LSU team is deep enough or good enough to do that. But maybe they'll, they got the guy that'll be a difference maker. And I guess that's the hope. But the flip side of it is you say, well, if he was that good, why didn't he win the job at Ohio State? Well, Cardale Jones could have started a lot of places, but he was behind J.T. Barrett, who's holds every record in Ohio State history. So, it's I'm so curious. Like I'm getting to the point now where LSU reports to camp a week from today, and I'm kind of tapping my feet now, like itching to see how this is going to play out. I mean, I know Burrow is going to start. I mean, he's going to win the job. I don't think that that's any real surprise, or shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. But I'm curious to see at this point, how good he really is or can be. Let's get some more hellos to some of y'all. Chris Domain asks, what happens with Miles Brennan? Miles Brennan's going to stay. I mean, his dad said as much, gave an on-the-record interview where he said, Miles is going to stay, he's going to compete for the job. And I guess for Brennan, at this point, it doesn't make a lot of sense to leave because even Burrow's got 2 years left. I mean, what if the opposite happens? What if Burrow comes in, starts the Miami game, and stinks? I mean, can I point out Malik Zaire to you? I mean, Zaire went from Notre Dame to Florida last year, and he was the guy because you had Felipe Franks and Kyle Trask, who are young guys who didn't seem like they're ready, and Zaire had been in the fire at Notre Dame before and was talent. I mean, LSU saw him in the Music City Bowl in 2014, and then all of a sudden, Zaire just, the change in level of competition just stunk. And so then it ended up being Felipe Franks last year. Florida had a lot of growing pains with the young quarterback. So I don't think Miles Brennan's going anywhere. Maybe you reassess after the season, but my guess is Brennan sticks around and probably gets 2 years to start at the end of his career, provided Burrow stays and starts for 2 years. Mark, good morning. Megan, good morning. Good to see you. Trey Dykes, what's up, man? Bubba Abear, Jamie Leday, James Vadreen. Good to see you, Jimmy. Scott says we dodged a bullet with Felipe Franks just from what I've seen. I think it's easy to say that. So it's easy to say that, but you never know how someone's going to function within a system. And, if Franks had come, he still wouldn't have started until probably this year. So, like I said, they got into a bind at Florida last year where they had the transfer in Zaire, who they thought was going to be their stopgap, and it didn't work out, so they had to play Frank sooner. It was likely what was going to happen with, with Miles Brennan. Had he been able to lead that win against the Troy game, lead LSU to a win, a comeback win against Troy, they would have ridden with him. And I would say it's not that different from if sorry, Drew's running around. It's distracting me. With Georgia with Jacob Eason 2 years ago, they get the 5-star. They play him as a freshman. They go 7-5. It doesn't mean Jacob Eason stunk. It just meant that they were taking their lumps and getting him his experience, and then they were going to be better. No one could have foreseen him getting injured and then Fromm being as good as he was. So, anyway, high praise from Urban Meyer about Joe Burrow yesterday. One other thing I want to talk about, we'll get to your questions and comments, so fire away. I see some of them coming up. Mark is asking about the Pelicans. I'll get to that in a second. Pelicans did add a couple of players yesterday, but again, like we talked about. Burke, I see your question too about Lowell. I'll get that for you. Randy Zaccaro, good morning. Good to see you. One more thing. So Brandon Coleman, who missed all of the spring practice, the OTAs and the minicamp, has been placed on the physically unable to perform list at the start of camp. That's the PUP. So they can activate him whenever he's healthy. But I do think that's interesting for this reason. When you look at the receivers that the Saints have, and provided they keep, let's say they keep 5, which is typically what they do. Now, Larry Holder at NOLA.com projected them to keep 6 in his projections yesterday. But if you understand that Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn are a given, beyond that, you've got Cam Meredith, who was a big free agent acquisition, but he's coming off an injury. You got Traquan Smith, who's your draft pick out of Central Florida, who you all assume is going to make the team. And then Brandon Coleman presumably would be number 5, but you look around and there's Tommy Lee Lewis, and then there's a whole list. There's Austin Carr. There's a list of guys that if they come and make a splash while Coleman's on PUP, conceivably they could bump up ahead of Brandon Coleman. Now, you know what you have in Coleman, and for whatever reason, Sean Payton is infatuated with him. I mean, call it what it is, right? I mean, there's a reason this guy keeps making the team year after year despite seemingly underwhelming. But he keeps sticking around for some reason, and Sean Payton likes him. But it is worth watching. Does Brandon Coleman get Wally pipped by a very deep stable of receivers that are going into camp while Coleman's on PUP? See, there's a good one right there. Chris said, watch out for Traven Durrell. I mean, I remember talking to Sean Fazand of Fox 8 New Orleans during minicamp, and I think Traven's wearing like 13 or something. He's like, who was that? Made the 13 again. It's like every day they looked and it was like, Durrell made another catch. And, with training camp, it's kind of like that, man. You look for guys that make a splash, and then, you make that splash and you make good plays in preseason, and you're in a roster spot. We've seen that with Saints running backs, so why not with receivers as well? It's worth watching. They've kept guys that were undrafted in the past. They've kept like Mitchell Lowen. They've kept Bobby Richardson. I mean, Peyton is kind of his MO, man. He'll find those diamonds in the rough, and he likes to be the smartest guy in the room. And if he finds someone like that, he'll roll with him. So Coleman's one of them. But for example, came out of Rutgers undrafted. Made the team. He's been here ever since. So, all right, that's what I had on my plate. Let me get some of your stuff. Mark said, keep Brendan Narcisse to Tulane. I don't know if Lowell's going to go to Tulane. I think if he wanted to aim higher, he could. I mean, he could go major D1 if he wanted. But you got to find your landing spot. And I don't know specifically that Lowell transfers this year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did. I think there's just a lot of different conversations about that and what Lowell values. I think many people know that his father died, and he was close to his mom. So does he want to move far? I don't know. I mean, those are personal conversations that you'd have to have with that kid. But it wouldn't surprise me if if it did happen. Hang on, this says it paused. Let me make sure we're still rolling here. Hang on. Yep, we're still good. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Sorry. I don't know what happened on this that it paused, but anyway. Let's get a couple more of your questions, Mark. The day they signed Joe Burrow, I said as plainly as I could possibly say on AFR that there's no way both Burrow and McMillan are on the roster together against Miami. And I'll stick to that. Maybe I'll be wrong. And if I am, I'll absolutely play the audio back and laugh at myself. But like we talked about yesterday, the Vegas odds had McMillan at plus 510 to be the starter. The guy was the best guy in the spring is the worst odds to be the starter this year. That should tell you everything. Let's see. How's the running back situation? Chris, we got into that a couple of days ago on Morning Scone. There's just nothing proven there, man. And I saw a video posted yesterday of Clyde Edwards-Helaire doing some power clean. And, man, I really like the kid a lot. I mean, y'all know I got to see him at Catholic, and he's dynamic. But I don't know that he's an every down SEC back. So I will be fascinated to see how they use him. He's versatile. I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can return kicks and punts. He's deceptively strong. Like, his trunk is amazingly powerful. Like, I saw that little guy disappear into piles and move piles. he's deceptive in that regard, but I still don't know that he's an every down SEC back at 5'8", 190. And then the other guys are just like, I don't have much faith in Nick Brissett. I don't mean to be disparaging to any kid, but when you've been around for 4 years and you can't get a foothold, it tells you something. And then can you really count on freshmen to be amazing impact guys right away? I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but Fournette didn't really find his stride. That's the most talented running back LSU's ever had. Fournette didn't find his stride until mid to late October, Florida game, mid to late October of his freshman year. All right, so Burke said Narcisse goes where? We talked about that a little bit. I don't know where. I think the first guy to transfer though would be Justin McMillan, but maybe Lowell also. Jared Watts, good morning. All right, let's get to some more of your stuff here. Chris asked what happened to Malachi Dupree. He's in Buffalo, so he was a 7th round pick of Green Bay. Remember, he was injured in a preseason game where he had to be carted off the field. Was cut in Green Bay and then signed by Buffalo. So he's with the Bills right now. Let's see. Wade Gomez, good morning. Scott Rodri, good morning. Brady Beacom, good morning. Let's see. Joey, good morning. Shelly, good morning. My dad's watching too. Good morning, Deke. What's up, Dad? Let's see. If y'all got any more questions, fire away. Let's see. Other things that I wanted to get to or remind you. So Saints report the rookies report today. They'll be on the practice field tomorrow. LSU reports and starts practice next week. So we'll get to that. So today on AFR, we'll also be watching for the I think the Guy and the Groza watch list come out today. So I've been doing this on AFR. This is the week where every day more of the national watch lists come out. So it's just a good way to sort of segment talking about different position groups. So for LSU this year, of course, Guy and Groza are punter and place kicker. I would assume Zach Von Rosenberg is going to resume his punting duties. And as far as place kicker, that's going to be another interesting one because it's been we haven't talked a ton about it this offseason, but LSU had its worst season place kicking last year in almost 20 years, and Ogeron took a bit of a risk, a big risk by signing Cole Tracy. That's the Division II, he was the best kicker in Division II last year. And, obviously that's a big deal because it's a one-year mercenary. Like, you've got that guy you took up a scholarship spot in your class for a guy that's going to be here for 1 year. So he needs to make a huge impact this year. And, of course, the reason that's relevant is because when you look at the log jam of players they ended up with at signing day when they missed, of course, because they had given that spot to Cole Tracy, they didn't have another spot for Mario Goodrich, the cornerback who ultimately picked Clemson. When Surtain didn't commit, because LSU was holding a spot for Surtain, they told Goodrich, hey, don't commit yet, hold on, let's see if we're going to have a spot. Well, he goes and picks Clemson. Of course, Surtain picks Alabama. LSU went back to him and was like, hey, we have a spot. And he's like, no, I'm good, I'll go to Clemson. So you didn't have that spot because you gave it to this kicker, so you need the kicker to be great. Like, you need Cole Tracy to be awesome. So I don't know that he's going to be on the Groza list today when it comes out. It quite honestly doesn't matter if he is or not on that list, but he's just got to be really, really good this year for LSU. Let's see, get to a couple of more trivia. Same song my daughter listens to. Sing along right now. Oh, can you hear that? Can y'all hear that song in the other room? I didn't know that was that loud. Tim, what's up from Dallas? What's up, Tim? Go to Javier's, dude. I'm jealous. Randy, what's up, man? Get your Burrow jersey. Miami, LSU, what's your take? Scott, I actually think LSU beats Miami. I know that's going to sound odd to a lot of people, but I think, especially the way I've talked about this team, but Malik Rozier, at Miami really struggled last year with consistency. He's a fifth-year senior, but struggled with consistency. And Miami lost a lot on their defense. I think LSU's defense, in a season-opening game like that, defenses tend to be ahead of offense. So I think even if LSU's offense struggles to get going, I think LSU's defense keeps them in that ball game. And if LSU can be turnover free, then like I think they win it. The other thing too is LSU will have a massive crowd advantage in that game because of the LSU fans that will travel, because of proximity and just the alumni base in Dallas. Like LSU's going to have it. That will feel like a home game for LSU against Miami. So yeah, I actually think LSU beats Miami, and they, like we talked about before, they need to, man. Like they've got to beat Miami because I don't think they're winning week 3 at Auburn. And if they start 1-2. As brutal as October is, you could see that spiral effect. So they need that big win right out the chute. And the other thing is, man, you beat Miami in week 1, then you go. That's a top 10 win. You go to Auburn 2-0. Auburn likely would be undefeated at that point as well, provided they beat Washington. I mean, that would be 2 of the biggest wins in the country to start the season, with LSU beating Miami, Auburn beating Washington. They meet week 3. That's a huge national game with LSU and Auburn week 3 on the Plains if you're able to beat Miami. So. Circle it. It's huge. Let's see. A couple of more. Shelley says, will LSU basketball have a scholarship available if they land this Landon Hyatt kid? He announces August 10th. I don't, honestly, man, I haven't looked at their scholarship numbers in, God, I haven't talked about basketball in weeks. I'll get an answer. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know off the top of my head. I thought they were full, but, because they added the JUCO. They added that JUCO. I think they're full. I'll find out. Sean Spiker, Yancey Benoit. Good morning, y'all. Good to see you. All right, let's see if everybody's done. We'll bounce on out of here just about 8 o'clock. Y'all check out Boudreaux's, the Bloody Mary mix, the Margarita mix. Appreciate Boudreaux so much for sponsoring the show. Of course, you can find it at great local retailers like Calandro's, Alexander's, Calvin's. These are all in Baton Rouge, of course. Mid-City Wine and Craft. And then in Homa, they've got it at Canada's. So check it out, man. It's a great product. Probably the best thing about it is, for me, the margarita mix. It's not too tart. Oddly enough, like Erica made me a fruit cup yesterday, just like some fresh fruit she chopped, put into a bowl, and so it was like a fruit cup for me. And like I was eating it, and like my head just started sweating. I've told you all this before, but I have this like reaction to really tart things. So sugary mixing drinks like this tend to not be good for me because like my face right here will just break out sweating. My head will sweat. It's kind of gross, I know, but this didn't happen. It didn't happen with this. So anyway, and it tastes great. So it's not too tart, too sugary, but tastes great. And then the Bloody Mary mix, a lot of you have tried. You've told me you enjoyed it. And the best part about it is, I mean, you don't have to open up your entire pantry to mix up a Bloody Mary. Just pour that, add your vodka, stir, and you're ready to roll. So we appreciate Boudreaux's. Let's see. Anything I want to get to? Hang on one second, y'all. Hang on one second. I'm coming back. One second. Sorry. That's Drew's feeding. It was beeping, as you probably heard. Someone said Drew's been quiet. He's watching this little YouTube video in there that he loves, and that's going to take precedent. I'm sure Erica put it on before she left. All right, let's see. A couple more. So that's what Ronnie said. Drew's quiet today. That's why. All right, let's see. Bubba says Tracy has to be great both to justify his scholarship, but also needed with so many unknowns on offense. I agree. Yancey, good morning. They'll have a lot more than a 500 season. Defense is that good. Offense will have to put up 10 a game. Man, like, all right, let me play devil's advocate, okay? And I really like the defensive front a lot, okay? But Rashard Lawrence has 10 career starts. As much as we like him, he's not stayed healthy and been productive. Ed Alexander in the middle has 17 total tackles. And Braden Fehoko, nobody has seen him play. Okay? Devin White's a monster. I'm not going to dispute that. He's been awesome. The guy opposite him is going to be either Tyler Taylor, who athletically was really good a year ago, but his head was swimming. Phillips or Queen, who were just rotational players a year ago. Neither of them have been an every down player. You really like Caleb Von Chasson. and hope that he emerges and becomes the next Arden Key. Opposite him, Ray Thornton, Andre Anthony, some athletic guys, but none of whom have played a lick. You know Greedy Williams is awesome, but you have no clue who's going to be opposite him or in the nickel. And at safety, I really like Grant Delpit and John Battle. But you got some questions, man. Like, you got some real questions on defense. You got a lot of talent. And I like Aranda, and I think they're going to be really good. But to say, like, all you need to score is 10 a game is, I mean, that's absurd. Anyway. And offensively, you got even more questions than that. You know, I think LSU's first 22, they've got some really good players. I think it's the next 22 where they lack depth and experience, and that's probably why this goes awry late in games, I would think. So, anyway, I'm not picking them to go 500, Yancey, but I'm picking them to go 7-5, one game above 500. There's 7 games that they could lose, and I think they go 2-5 in those games. All right, let's see. And with that wonderful note, and Drew yelling, "Hey, Drew! Hey, Drew! Calica!" Oh, you're fussing now? Why are you gonna fuss? Everybody wants to see you be happy. Everybody likes happy Drew. Happy Drew. Whoop, that's your food bag. Move that out the way. Ada. Calica! Okay, look, you can't fuss. If I'm gonna hurt my throat doing that, you gotta be happy. Hey, look. Hey, look. Say hi to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you're saying bye-bye to everybody? I guess Drew has spoken. So, y'all have a great day. Pool. Okay. I know, right? Right, Ronnie? Same, last one. No, it's all good, man. Sam says, who has more questions on defense, LSU or Alabama? Alabama has Nick Saban. And they've been a top 5 defense every year he's been there. So, please don't make that comparison. Acknowledge what they are. Just accept it and move on. So, all right, y'all, we're going to get out of here because he's fussing. Hey. No. Drew, baby. It's okay. All right, y'all pick up Boudreaux's, like them on all their social media, and check them out. Support great sponsor that supports us. And we'll see you tomorrow for Morning Scone.